This is Mrs. Hamilton, and we're here with another art lesson. This week I have been doing some projects based on space. And this one is Joan Miro inspired Constellations drawing. And so Joan Miro was an artist. He was well known for his abstract paintings that were inspired by constellations. Constellations are names for groups of stars that appear to form shapes in the sky. They were given their names many hundreds of years ago to help us remember which stars are which. We use constellations to divide up the sky. Finding one can help us find another because constellations move so slowly that in our lifetime, they will always be found in about the same place. There is going to be a video down in the details. This is a really great video that describes constellations. I highly recommend that you go and check it out. Other than that, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Just to show you Joan Miro, this is actually an example of one of his paintings. Whoops, I have that upside down. And as you can see, there's a lot of different types of shapes being used. There are circles and lines. You can even see some eyes and things like other recognizable shapes like stars. And I also see, sometimes you'll see like a bow tie. I call them bow ties. And and if you notice, it kind of looks a little bit like constellations. Not exactly, because, you know, the artist was inspired by it. That means they didn't copy it exactly, but their art kind of looks a little bit like it could belong in the sky or look like a constellation. You also see little lines with stars and some lines connecting to all the different little circles and shapes. All right. For this art lesson, the materials that you're going to need, I have a guide sheet with different items that you might want to add to your design and step-by-step how to do them. You're going to want a 9x12 construction white paper, or, you know, some kind of piece of copy paper is fine. You may use a pencil. I'm going to use a marker directly onto the paper, but if you want to use a pencil, you may. And then you're going to need some colored markers. I'm going to be using these colored markers right here, but any colored markers will work. If you want to use something other than markers, you most certainly can. You could use colored pencils or crayons. Those work perfectly well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. Okay, I'm using a black marker to start. I'm keeping this sheet nearby because I'm going to be using it in a few minutes. But the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with some circles and dots, and then we're going to connect them together with a line to start our constellation designs. Now, you could randomly place dots, not really thinking about what shapes they're going to make. You can also use, we'll be adding circles in a moment. We're going to start with dots. Or you could use the dots and you spread them out to actually maybe have a specific shape in mind, okay? So for instance, these are my random. So I'm going to, after I make a few, make some of them I'm going to connect them however I think they should be connected. So let's see, I could go down or over, it's up to you. And this is the fun part about the random shapes. They don't really have to look like anything specific. We just want to imply dots and lines like constellations. Now this one I actually had a plan for, and that was to look like maybe a little house. Just like that, okay? Also, I like to do a little combination of both. I like to do it this first step, a whole bunch of random lines and points connected together, and then we're going to continue to build and add to this design. So I'm going to add a couple more. Now, one of the things I really want you to pay attention, after you do a few and connect with lines, you want to look at your design and decide if it is balanced. So if you imagine it's on an imaginary teeter-totter, and for instance, if I put all of my lines and shapes on one side, it's going to feel very heavy, like it's weighing down on one side visually. We don't want that. We want it to feel balanced. That means that both sides are going to feel equal. okay? And it's not going to feel like it's going to tip to one side or the other, or even feel too heavy to the top or bottom. That can happen as well. So when you start adding lines, like for instance, I have a lot of lines and points here, where not so much here, and this is a bigger shape and this is a smaller shape, so it's much heavier on this side. So I might want to add a few points and lines in just a moment to this side to help balance it out a little bit. Now, later on, if let's say you later on are like, well, I want to play with, all these little shapes, and you have some space, you do want to leave some space for our little shapes, because that is also going to add weight in different areas of your drawing. So we're thinking our main focus, besides playing with lines and points and shapes, is also we're really thinking about balance. That's probably the most important part of this activity, is making sure we create balance. All right, guys, let's see. I think I might add a couple. I could always add more later, but I'm going to add a couple. See, for instance, this was a very big area, so I'm just adding a smaller shape to help balance it out a little bit. It's not perfect. Also, you could have a couple lines crossing over or overlapping. And let's see, I'm going to add maybe one more random with no rhyme or reason. Maybe something like that. And maybe we make it a triangle. Again, you could do whatever you like. You can place the points and lines wherever you like. I'm just showing you an example. All right, so I'm pretty satisfied. I feel like this is balanced. I've got quite a few lines. If I keep adding too many, it's going to get very cluttered very quick. So this time, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some circles and some more organic shapes. That means it's not a basic shape that we recognize. It might just be kind of like a shape that is unrecognizable. Okay, so for instance, I'm going to add some more circles overlapping these lines, kind of like that Miro example. So for instance, you can see the circles over the actual circles, and the line is cutting through. So kind of that idea in mind. And they can be small or they could be big. We can just even add a few in the space. Again, I'm stopping every once in a while and making sure I'm sticking with balance or thinking about the balance. Okay, I'm gonna add one here and here maybe, and maybe even one right here. Okay, looking good so far. I'm gonna also do a little bit of a bigger shape. So I'm gonna go in and I'm going to go and do just a slightly bigger organic rounded shape here and there. Maybe one right there. Maybe one right here. It's very typical of his designs to have something very similar to this. Okay. And you can see, if you look at it from a distance, you can start to see it feels very heavy up here and very heavy down here. But I'm going to be adding more, so no worries. All right. So after you get some of your lines and points and a few shapes in there, maybe some more circles here and there, it's time to add some more recognizable shapes and lines and details, okay? And that's where we're going to add some of these constellation or space-inspired symbols. And some of them, I put a couple examples, like the bow tie, the star, the eye, and there was a couple different eyes. And I put a mustache because I just thought it was cute and fun. And so what you're going to do, let's see, and then we have moons and planets. So I'm going to start off, I love the planet, so I'm going to put a planet in here because I want, that really tells us, hey, this is a space-themed or space-inspired, constellation-inspired design. Okay, I'll put this, make a little space. All right, and then I like to think that the eyes that we're putting in is going to symbolize maybe the eye of God. Another word for space is the heavens, and that's because it's up, and we often think of heaven up in the sky. So a lot of times space is considered or also called the heavens up above. And I often think that these eyes are kind of like God watching us and watching over us. So I don't know, it's something to think about. All right, let's see. I'm gonna put one of these stars. Now with the stars, now you can make big ones and little ones. You can really have fun with it. I like to think of it like a human body a little bit. So you have the head of the star, the arms of the star, and the legs of the star, and they all connect. So I'm gonna put a couple of those. And then I'm going to do maybe a crescent moon. So we start with a C. It can go either direction. I'm going to put it this way. And we're just connecting at the points. And then my eye, I definitely want an eye. Now, again, we can really play with size. We can go really big or really small. So I'm going to go a little bigger this time. And I'm going to do this eye right here. So I'm doing a rainbow curve and a shorter rainbow curve that connects. And I call this a smile curve. And then the oval or semicircle, the pupil, and then some lashes. You don't have to have lashes, but I put a few on this design. And then let's see, gotta put a mustache. I love the mustaches. And we start with two curves, kind of like two smiley curves connected. And then, there we go. And let's see, what else could we have? Oh, I love these stars. I really like to add those in and really fill this space. Wherever I start to see big areas of space, that's where I start adding shape. So I start to look, like I said, we're thinking about space, everyone. So if everything is really down at the bottom or up at the top, you need to add some more lines and shapes, and you need to space things out. Now that doesn't mean we overlap and we scribble. We just want to think about little spaces that we could add a little extra to help balance it out. And let's see. Oh, gotta put some bow ties in. I love the bow ties. So I'm going to crisscross like an X and close the sides. And in some of the Joan Miro art examples, the bow tie connects sometimes with the lines. And there is also some triangles. I'm going to add some other additional shapes that we often see. You can also do shapes inside of shapes, like that. Let's see. I'm going to add maybe another one right here. And once it starts to feel really full, your drawing, you don't want to overdo it and just add way too much to the point where we can't see everything. But once your drawing starts to feel full and overall feel balanced, that is probably about the time that you want to consider stopping. I'm kind of connecting a few more circles together and overlapping. Again, I'm really inspired by some of the art. Ooh, there's some swirls. We could do some swirls with a dot. Let's do that as well. So we're going to make a dot. Let's see. We're going to make a dot like that. And then we're going to come out and around like that. Could do a couple of those. Out and around and come out, maybe something like that. I saw a little bit of that going on. I'm going to add maybe another planet right here, a little mini planet. All right, I think I am liking what I see. I think I'm about done. You can continue working if you want. You can pause the video and keep adding, and if there's any other things you think it needs, go ahead and add anything else you think it needs. In just a moment, we're going to start talking about a little bit about color. All right, we are going to go ahead and start some color. Now, a majority of this picture is going to be white. We are only going to color in closed shapes. That means that the line connects and closes. Like for instance, this could be considered a shape. However, this line with all these points is open. That means it does not connect anywhere, so we would not color it. We would only color anything that is considered a shape, okay, which is a closed line. All right, and you are going to want to repeat colors. It is your choice what colors. I suggest you stay away from black because we use so much black in this design already. If you were using pencil before, you might want to take a black and trace over your pencil lines before you fill in the shapes. But I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to start with a couple colors. Also, again, color. Depending on what colors you use and where you place color, it can change the balance of the design. Dark colors tend to feel heavy. Light colors tend to feel light. So you want to keep in mind, if you're going to do dark colors, you might want to spread them out evenly throughout the design and not just on one side. So I like to take one color at a time and fill a shape, and then find another shape I want to fill. Now, this is your design to play with. Stars do not have to be yellow. They can be whatever color that you want. But I am repeating my first color over and over. And if you notice, I'm spreading them out again. And then if there is a line that goes through one shape, it now can become two shapes. So we can make it two different colors. And if you notice, I'm spreading out this color and I'm repeating it here and there throughout the design. So it is your choice what colors you choose. All right, I'm going to switch to another color because I like that. And I'm going to use a darker color. Again, let me remind you, anything that's darker, you want to make sure you spread it out, okay? And if you like, for instance, if I have this shape where there's two sides, I could easily just color this other side. If some shapes you don't necessarily have to color in, but like this whole big, because technically this little house is closed, I could color in, but I'm probably not going to color it in. So I'm going to continue to repeat the color that's in my hand at the moment, just to have some fun. I could just color the whole shape here. I'm gonna add a little blue here. Maybe a blue eyelid. And let's see, maybe one right here. And I'm going to keep adding more and more colors until most all my shapes are filled. So I'm going to work on this for a little bit, and when I'm done, I'll come back and show you the final. All right, I am all done with my finished Constellations inspired drawing. I really enjoyed this. You can see where I repeated the colors that I was using. And one of the things I really thought about is that I spread out the colors and put the colors evenly on all around my drawing. I didn't want to keep, all the dark colors on one side or the light colors on one side, because that would throw off the balance. Remember, the key to this, the thing we're thinking the most about with this activity, is creating balanced design in our art. Balance is super important. Oftentimes, if our art piece is not balanced, then it doesn't feel right. When the viewer is looking at our art piece, they know there's something not quite working. And sometimes it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is. A lot of times it is the balance, where things are placed and that things are placed evenly. For the larger objects, I made sure to make sure that, for instance, yellow was balanced out in the little shapes as well as the big shape, and same thing with the orange and the red. This was really fun. I hope you really enjoy it, and keep creating, everyone. Bye.